The scope plane of user experience design is the place where the split between software tasks and information or content really starts to come into play. On the task and software side, we're concerned with functional specifications. We started by asking why we're doing what we're doing, and now we're asking what exactly are we going to do? What are we going to build? First, it's important to note that requirements can apply to the product as a whole, but they can also apply to a very specific feature. In addition to this overarching set of features and functions that describe the product, we're also concerned with how specific features work and how they interrelate with others. So that means, in turn, that the level of detail in your specifications depends on the specific scope of the project. The more complexity we have, the more requirements we need. The more features we decide to implement, the more specification for how those features should be designed and programmed and essentially implemented we need. The best source for those functional specs and requirements are typically users, the people who are interacting on a day-to-day basis with either an existing product that you're redesigning or who have a very specific need that will be fulfilled by the new product. But at the same time, requirements and specifications will also come from stakeholders. They probably also understand what needs to happen in order for value to come back to the organization, to get some return on their investment in the project. So both sides, both the client side specifically and the end user side, determine feature specs and requirements. And those requirements fall into three essential categories. There are things people say they need, then there are things that they actually need, because those aren't always the same things, and then finally there are things that they don't know they need. And we're going to talk about each one of those areas in detail. So the first set of things that we typically are going to include in our feature specification are the things that people tell us that they need. Now, no matter who you're talking to, whether these are people inside the client organization or whether you're sitting down and having a conversation with end users, a lot of ideas will be generated. And quite frankly, a lot of them will be very good ideas. They're good ideas and they may very well find their way into the finished product, but most of them don't. Okay, and that's simply because while lots of them certainly may be good ideas, they may not be possible. Okay, they may not be feasible. They may not be easy to accomplish. They may take longer than the project schedule will allow. Okay, there are any number of reasons. But some of the reasons those ideas don't make it into the final feature set have a lot to do with people. Okay, and let's talk about that. Human beings make very confident but also very false predictions sometimes about their future behavior, especially when we're presented with something that's new and unfamiliar. And that's because there's a huge difference between imagining using something and actually using it. One is speculation. You're imagining, you're guessing how you would use a particular thing. By its very nature, that's inaccurate. And it's inaccurate especially because we don't have any prior experience with the topic at hand, the product at hand, right? If it's something we've never used before, we really can't say to a reasonable degree of specificity how we would use certain features because we probably don't even fully understand what those features are. Familiarity changes the game completely. The other thing is that human preferences are somewhat unstable. And I don't mean that in a bad way. You know, we're unstable creatures. What I mean is that they're subject to all sorts of things. Our preferences are subject to our emotions. They're subject to the kind of day that we're having. They're subject to our experiences up to that point. They're constrained. They're limited to the sort of